Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Good to see you guys. Welcome to my room. I think I have to apologize in advance about the lighting again. It's not ideal. It's not going to be ideal today again, unfortunately, but it will be better from not next week onwards, but the week after that. So bear with me. Yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit more about being an INFJ man because that has been a topic mentioned to me as one that I could explore a bit further. And so I guess I'll tackle a little bit what I consider to be quite distinctive of the situation or plight, depending on how you want to look at it, of being an INFJ man. I think perhaps one of the most interesting and difficult things sometimes is that really I find that I'm constantly battling between FE and TI. So I understand that, that's not necessarily all men, and after all, there are lots of ENFJ men who are FE dominants, but I do think that when you are sort of an FETI user and you're a man, there's going to be always a little bit of pressure internally felt, but probably externally promoted, with you being more of a thinking type, and that comes from societal forces. And I think that with me, that it definitely is quite a distinctive trait of my life. It's hard for me to be in FE mode for long periods without sort of using TI as a not just as a protection, but also as a kind of defining parameter of my identity, and that something that maybe I would see often as demarcating me from like other feeling types. Like I have a lot of friends who are feeling types, and I think that in relation to them, I'm usually very much more a thinker. I mean, relatively to a thinking type will be a feeling type, but I'm like really kind of in the middle, and I think that that's the position that I'm occupying. That is, in a way, there's an unhealthy dimension to it because it should be, TI should be related to as the tertiary function, and FE as the auxiliary function. So in a sense, FE is slightly more, prevalent, and it's really important not to denigrate it. It's important not to repress it. But what's unhealthy as well is that I think that I've come to a stage where this TI proficiency of use and regularity of use has come to become a little bit part of my identity and how I defend myself, and therefore also how I sort of promote my own resilience in society. And so yeah, that would be quite a defining trait, I think, of me as an INFJ man. Like another thing that I feel is that I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on how I could say, like in a flirting situation, I have a lot of thoughts on how I could approach someone, and sometimes I intuitively know how to talk to them. I intuitively know how to kind of be seductive, and I've often been called flirtatious, but it's significantly more difficult to go to the phase that follows that. It's the phase where you, as a friend said recently, when you're invited upstairs. So what do? Do I go upstairs or I'll go home? Like I don't know what to do. So I think that a lot of my male friends, for example, and that includes feelers, would be better than me at like sort of moving to that last step. Whereas, interestingly, I think that I would be more at ease than quite a few of them. I think most of them with the flirting thing. But then it's almost like as long as it remains somewhat innocent, like I'm really good, and then when it becomes a bit more overtly, potentially sexual, let's say sensual, when like there's intimacy, SE domains like that come close, and theoretically maybe I have some power over whether to make it happen or not. Well, like in my experience, the vast majority of the time I really struggled, and I think that sometimes I probably like ruined some of my opportunities, so to speak, if you want to see that as opportunities. But I always kind of rationalize that as, it would have been a superficial affair anyway, which has never been something that has satisfied me long term, so I don't really regret it. But it's true that, like sometimes when I talk to my friends, it's almost like they just have had more experience with that kind of thing. And so, again, as a man, you can end up questioning yourself. Am I sort of like too innocent, or, too inexperienced, or whatever, so that's, and it's so much in contrast to the capacity to actually be flirtatious and seductive in other ways, so that's, I think, quite defining for me also. Yeah, I think that, again, within that same kind of, not the same as what I just talked about, but the first like FETI kind of tug of war, there is this thing that when you discuss with people, are you the kind of agreeable type, or are you the kind of argumentative type, knowing that if you're the argumentative type, you sort of need to be able to stomach critiques, counter arguments, and potentially a more heated conversation. And that is so much a part of my life that I'm bored if I'm agreeable, right? So I don't actually necessarily enjoy being agreeable, unless like it's a topic that I don't know much about and someone is talking about it. I'm like, oh wow, that's really interesting, and I want to hear more, and I'm happy to listen and to agree, or rather to nod, or to be like, continue talking to me about this, it's very interesting. But if there is a debate about a topic I care about and I have my own opinion and I've thought about it, I'm going to want to go full throttle, want to like have a genuine exchange. And it goes well if the people are willing to have the kind of exchange that I'm willing to have. But sometimes with feelers, I can come across as if I am a little bit too thinky, or like not taking care to formulate my words enough in a certain way. Even though I do think I do that, but sometimes, when things get a bit like agitated or animated, naturally I say something and it comes across as vindictive, or not necessarily vindictive, but just like a proper critique, and like people need to be able to face that, need to be able to process that. But then when I'm debating with thinkers, they're not going to experience this kind of defensiveness, so they're not going to be upset by the way I talk. But the thing is, sometimes the thinkers will answer back in a way that is even more drastic, or even more sort of like not using gloves, when they punch. They're just going to be like quite straight to the point, straightforward, direct, blunt, and they could say things like, I don't think your argument makes sense, blah blah blah, this is the reason why. And like it's often dispassionate, there's no intention to hurt, but they can end up making me feel like I can make feelers feel when I don't consciously want to upset them, but I say something in a too blunt a manner. So even in a conversation, it's like I'm not quite feeler and I'm not quite thinker. I'm just like straddling this middle ground. So my life as an INFJ man is often a life of surviving in the middle ground and trying to make the most of it. But let me know in the comments, guys, what you think and what your experience is. See you soon.